Naomi and Owen were the epitome of a perfect couple. Their love was the stuff of dreams, and everyone around them admired their bond. They were best friends, lovers, and soulmates all wrapped into one. Their home, a cozy cottage at the edge of the town, was filled with laughter, love, and the scent of freshly baked meals. Every evening, they would share their day over dinner, laughing at the smallest jokes and making plans for the future. But Owen carried a secret, one so deep that even Naomi, the woman he loved, could never suspect it. While he played the role of the doting husband at home, he was also living another life, one filled with lies, deceit, and betrayal. Every night, after kissing Naomi goodnight, he would disappear into a world of affairs, leaving behind only an empty bed and an aching conscience. Naomi had started noticing subtle changes in Owen's behavior. He had become distant, often lost in thought, and there were days when he would come home late with excuses that didn't quite add up. Her heart began to sink, and a quiet whisper of doubt crept into her mind. She dismissed it at first, thinking it was just her overactive imagination, but deep down, she knew something wasn't right. One evening, when Owen was working late again, Naomi decided to take a walk to clear her head. As she strolled through the park, she overheard a conversation that would shatter her world. A woman's voice, soft and familiar, mentioned Owen's name in a way that suggested there was more than just friendship between them. Her heart raced as she pieced the words together, her fears now confirmed. Owen had betrayed her trust. Naomi returned home that night with a heavy heart. She didn't know how to approach Owen, or if she should even confront him at all. She sat by the window, staring out into the dark night, as the weight of the truth settled upon her. The love she thought was unbreakable was now shattered, and the man she trusted with her heart was no longer who he seemed. Finally, she decided she couldn't live with the uncertainty any longer. Owen arrived home hours later, his face lighting up when he saw her. But Naomi was no longer the same woman he had left earlier. She looked at him with cold eyes, demanding the truth. Owen froze, the mask he wore for so long now slipping away. He knew the jig was up, and for the first time, he felt the full weight of his double life crashing down on him. Owen sat down, his shoulders slumped with guilt. He confessed everything, from the affairs to the lies he had told to cover up his deceit. He spoke of the excitement he felt in his secret life, the thrill of being someone else, someone more desirable than the man who had been Naomi's husband. He told her how he had convinced himself that his actions didn't matter, that she would never find out. Naomi listened in silence, her heart breaking with every word Owen spoke. The love they had shared seemed so distant now, as though it belonged to another lifetime. She had trusted him with everything, and he had shattered that trust beyond repair. The man she had once called her soulmate was now a stranger, and the dream they had built together was crumbling before her eyes. Naomi's world felt as if it had been turned upside down. She couldn't understand how Owen, the man who had promised to love and cherish her forever, could betray her in such a painful way. The hurt was so deep that it seemed to consume her entire being. She spent sleepless nights replaying the past, wondering if there had been signs she had missed. Her friends and family rallied around her, offering support, but the pain remained. Every corner of their home held memories of the love they once shared, and now those memories felt tainted. Naomi tried to keep busy, but it was impossible to escape the reality of what had happened. Owen's betrayal had not only torn apart her trust in him, but also in herself. Owen, too, was grappling with the consequences of his actions. The excitement of his double life had faded, replaced by an overwhelming sense of regret and shame. He had lost the woman he loved, and no amount of apologies could undo the damage he had caused. He knew he had crossed a line that could never be erased. He tried to make amends, but Naomi's heart had already begun to harden. She no longer saw the man she had once adored. All she saw was a man who had stolen her peace and shattered her trust. He begged for forgiveness, but deep down, he knew that the love they had once shared could never be the same again. As days passed, Naomi struggled with the decision of whether to leave Owen, or try to rebuild their life together. Her heart was divided, torn between the love she had for him and the pain he had caused her. Part of her still longed for the man she had once called her partner, but another part of her knew she could never fully trust him again. Owen, on the other hand, was desperate to prove that he could change. He promised to cut ties with the woman he had been seeing and make things right. But no matter how many promises he made, Naomi couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that he had already broken her in ways that couldn't be fixed. One evening, as Naomi sat by the window, reflecting on everything that had happened, she made a decision. She realized that her happiness couldn't depend on someone who had betrayed her trust so deeply. She had to let go of the man she loved in order to find herself again. It was a painful decision, but she knew it was the only way forward. Owen, sensing her resolve, finally understood that no matter how much he begged, Naomi was no longer the woman he had once known. She was stronger now, and the love they had shared was no longer enough to heal the wounds he had inflicted. He respected her decision, though his heart shattered in the process. Naomi took time for herself. She surrounded herself with loved ones and focused on rebuilding her life, piece by piece. Slowly, she began to rediscover the woman she had been before Owen entered her life. She started pursuing her passions again, things she had put on hold for the sake of her marriage. Her heart, though scarred, began to heal. Owen, too, embarked on a journey of self-reflection. He realized that the thrill of his secret life had been a fleeting escape, one that left him empty and regretful. He sought therapy to understand the root of his actions and worked on becoming a better person, though he knew it would take time. Months later, Naomi and Owen crossed paths at a local cafe. The sight of him stirred old feelings, but it wasn't the same as before. She had moved on, and though there was still pain, she had learned to forgive him, not for his sake, but for her own healing. Owen, too, had changed. He no longer sought to win her back, but simply wanted to see her happy. They exchanged a few words, polite but distant. In that moment, Naomi realized that the love they had once shared had died, but it had paved the way for both of them to grow and heal. She smiled softly, knowing that sometimes, the hardest love stories end in freedom, not togetherness. As the months passed, Naomi found peace in her decision. She met new people and opened her heart to new possibilities. She learned that love was not just about being with someone, it was about loving oneself first and foremost. She was no longer defined by her past, but empowered by the lessons it had taught her. Owen, on the other hand, continued his journey of self-improvement. Though he still carried the weight of his mistakes, he was learning to live with the consequences of his actions. He had hurt the woman he loved, but he was learning to love himself in a way that would make him a better person, even if it meant being alone. Years later, Naomi found love again, not in the way she had imagined, but in a way that felt right for her. She had grown into a stronger, more confident woman who had learned the importance of self-love and trust. The love she shared with her new partner was built on honesty, respect, and mutual understanding, qualities that had been absent in her marriage to Owen. Owen, though still regretful, had come to terms with the fact that he could never go back to the life he had once known. He had to accept that some mistakes couldn't be undone, but they could serve as lessons for the future. He began working on his relationships with others, vowing never to repeat the mistakes of his past. Naomi sat quietly one evening, reflecting on everything that had led her to this point. She thought of Owen, of the love they had shared, and of the pain he had caused. She didn't hate him, but she had learned that love was not enough to overcome betrayal. True love was built on trust, and without it, nothing could survive. She smiled, knowing that the journey had made her stronger. She was no longer the naive woman who had believed in the fairy tale of perfect love. Instead, She was someone who knew her worth and would never settle for anything less than the respect and love she deserved. Owen, years later, found himself sitting in the same cafe where he had once met Naomi. The years had not been kind, but they had been enlightening. He thought of the woman he had loved and lost, and of the life he had once taken for granted. He had finally accepted the reality of his actions and the pain he had caused. At that moment, Owen knew that forgiveness didn't always mean reconciliation. It sometimes meant letting go and learning to live with the lessons of the past. He had learned to forgive himself, but he would never forget the consequences of his double life. Moral of the story: this story of Naomi and Owen teaches us that love, though powerful, cannot survive without trust. Betrayal may tear apart even the strongest relationships, but it also provides an opportunity for growth and healing. True love begins with self-love and respect, and sometimes, the hardest choices lead to the greatest freedom.